Hare Krishna, welcome to module 5, which is called Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? This is a very pertinent question. We all somehow, some point in our lives, we ask ourselves or we feel this, that many times we feel that I'm not so bad. Okay, I may not be great, but I'm not so bad. I'm not a murderer or I'm not a rapist. There are people who do all that and they seem to have it better off than me. But why does bad things happen to good people? We may feel like that. So let us look at the first part of our discussion of this module, where we're going to discuss about why are we here. So in the previous modules, we have seen that in creation of the Supreme, in these universes, there is a spiritual world, which is a huge part of creation. The spiritual world is a place of eternity, is a place of bliss, is a place of knowledge, and it's eternal, it's always there. And a small portion of it is called the material worlds, which is like a dark corner of this entire creation. And the nature of this material world is temporary, full of problems, and it is miserable. So how did we came from the spiritual world to the material world? Why was it? So the Vedas, they explain that when the jiva, when the spirit soul felt as if they wanted to be a separate god, when the jivas, when the spirit soul desired to enjoy separate from the Supreme, to enjoy separate from God, that is when they are sent to this material world to try and become gods or try and become overlords or controllers or enjoyers in their own respects, in their own regards in this world. So every one of us in this world wants to be the big guy, the main person, famous and looked upon, liked about. This is what we all try to be. We want to be famous. So there's a nice story that once a mom, she was cooking, and her small child, the small girl, comes over and she sees that mummy is cooking something and she wants to imitate her mother. Now she says, Mummy, I also want to cook. And the mother knows, such a small child, there's fire, there's a stove, there's oil. It's a little risky. So what does the mother do? The mother gets a play set, a kitchen play set, and gives it to her daughter and says that, look, why don't you make your lunch in this? And it's a play set, it's a toy. So the small girl is taking that plastic stove and the plastic pan and she's putting the imaginary vegetables inside and she's stirring and she's playing. And by playing these toys, and she's happy, she says, I'm also cooking. But the reality is, when it comes time to eat, she has to run back to the mother and says, Mommy, please give me some food. So similarly, God also loves us very much. But when the jivas, when the living souls, when we, the spirit souls, decide to become a separate chef or become a separate master of this world, then God also gives us a play set, which is this material world, which is this world we live in. He creates this play set where we come in here and we try to lord it over and rule and conquest and this and that and whatnot. But the reality is, when it comes time to eat, when it actually comes time for love and nourishment and happiness, then there's all imaginary here, so we have to run back to Him. So it is God's mercy, God's compassion, God's love for us that He has given this copy. Now this material world is a bad copy of the spiritual world. It is like a shimmering reflection of the spiritual world. Once a man saw a golden necklace kind of like shining in the river, and he became so desirous of it, and he just jumped in the river, tried to pick it up. But then he realized it was not really a golden necklace. It was a reflection of the necklace which was hanging on top of the tree. So similarly, this material world is also a reflection. What we may see things here, beautiful, great and good, they're all reflections of the original. The problem with the reflection is it's shimmering, it may not last, it may look good, but it may not be there. So just like the man jumps in the river, try to steal or try to get that golden necklace, but it does not actually exist. We are also coming into this world trying to find for eternality, bliss, happiness, permanent position, right? But it's not there. The thing about reflections is that whatever is the highest in this material world if it's reflected, becomes the lowest on the spiritual world. And whatever is the lowest in the material world, if reflected, becomes the highest in the spiritual world. So, what is the highest thing in this material world? What is the most glorified, everyone wants after? It is sex desire. The desire to dominate, the desire to get pleasure, the desire to be pleased, the desire to gain pleasure, the desire to exploit. This is the lowest thing in the spiritual world. And what is the most highest thing in the spiritual world? The highest thing in the spiritual is selflessness. The feeling that, others, let them become better than me, let them go ahead of me, thinking of the welfare of others, always thinking about the well-being of others, worrying about others, loving others, serving others. This is the highest thing in the spiritual world, and that becomes the lowest thing in this material world. In fact, in many times in corporates, in companies, in many places, they would say that you need to toughen up to move ahead. If you start, being a little selfless and thinking about others, you will not progress. It's a dog-eat-dog world, as they say. So this is not so much liked about. So between these two worlds, we need to go back to the spiritual world, because this material world is not our place. There's a beautiful story in the Bible. Jesus speaks about the prodigal son. So the prodigal son is a son of a very wealthy, rich man who's enjoying all the father's assets, but one day becomes very angry with the father, has a fight, runs away, or he gets bad association, bad company, and he mixes with some friends and he moves off, and he starts wasting the money, enjoying the money, and just wasting all his father's wealth. And after some time, when he loses everything, even his friends leave him and he becomes a nothing. But when someone sees him on the street, and he's suffering, and when someone sees him on the street, they recognize that, aren't you that billionaire's son? So go back. And he takes this boy back to his father, and again the boy is reinstated in his position as a billionaire's son. So all of us are actually children of a very rich person, that is the Supreme Lord. But giving up our father's treasure, we have actually come to this world, try to make our own treasure, try to make our own wealth and livelihood without taking shelter of the father. And there's a lot of difficulties, a lot of miseries. Another example we can see is a fish out of water. If you take a fish out of water and you may give the fish the best of mocktails and best food, and give it an air conditioning apartment, give it a driver, give it some this and that to enjoy, cigarettes and whatnot, will the fish be happy? The fish will not be happy. The fish needs water. So similarly, when you take the spirit soul out of the service spirit, the spirit to serve the Supreme, that's the original constitution. If you take the spirit soul, the jiva, out of the spirit of service towards Supreme Lord and try to make the jiva, into the living entity, into a separate controller, separate enjoyer, separate owner, this will not make it happy. But if you put the jiva back in the spirit of service, then actually the jiva will become very, very happy. So therefore, why are we here? Because we desire to try and enjoy separate from God. But coming here, this is all a plastic plaything. We can't really get our nourishment here. We can't even get our happiness here. We need to realize this, wake up and head back, go back to the kingdom of the Father. And therefore, till that happens, there will always be some difficulties and pains, and because this world is temporary and it's not our home. Hare Krishna.